finished that off with a kind of a whirling derby leap there in the end zone, and then I guess it was the DeVito celebration. Is that
Tribute to Tommy? Yeah, he's a good dude. He's got swag.
Yeah, who came up with that?
Oh, I have no idea. I just see him do it.
No, but whose idea was it for you to do that? And when did you know you were going to do it?
Most of the times I don't know what I'm going to do, so there's spontaneous stuff.
That was just spontaneous? That was not planned? I mean, even your teammates got into it, too.
Yeah, New York fans love Tommy here and give him something they like.
Are you Italian by any chance, or no?
I haven't done a 23andMe, but I don't know.
Who's eating good? Quarterback Love Edition served by Applebee's. Baker Mayfield is a 10 out of 10 character in the NFL.
He's awesome. Again, we interviewed him. I've interviewed him a few times in my life, and last year on the Super Bowl, we interviewed him here on Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So Baker Mayfield, a friend of the podcast, friend of the show. You wouldn't know this if you looked at Jay Croucher's Instagram, or because he's got a picture of him and Baker with like half my face.
You were there though.
Of course. Like this year, we're gonna have the guest next to me.
Well, a side story to that interview is me and Jay were going to grab lunch because you have like 30 seconds in between things.
Right.
Jay gets a call because we were rotating interviews. Jay runs back. Baker Mayfield so graciously waited for Jay.
Well, yeah, I mean, here's the thing. The truth is that Baker was supposed to go and just be on Pro Football Talk. But again, I've interviewed him once or twice, and so I was just like, hey, Baker, while you're here, would you mind stopping by our show? And he's so gracious. It's like, yeah, of course. And then it was just like, all right, where's Jay? Because as soon as Baker's done with PFT, he's coming. Wait, what? Jay went to get food? Wait, but we got Baker
because we didn't have him.
Right, exactly.
But he was nice
wasn't
enough
on the schedule.
Yep.
He was just going to go. He was just scheduled to do PFT, and so anyway, Baker not only did our show, but hung around until Jay could get back from stuffing his fat face. Not just sitting there waiting for the interviews. But anyway, we had a great conversation with him. He's an awesome human being. Like if you meet him, he's another one of those guys that it's just like you're like, I get it. Like it's easy to root for. You're like, if I was a teammate of this guy, I would want to run through a brick wall for him. He is just kind of that guy.
And he's also awesome in fantasy football this year, Lawrence. He's finished top 10 out of the quarterbacks in 8 of 11 games. It's hard to find the consistency that Baker has brought us this year.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, nice guy, but we got to be honest about his play. And his play's great.
Yeah.
Right. I said he was going to be a top 5 quarterback in fantasy in week 12. He was quarterback 9, not quite top 5, but he didn't throw a touchdown pass. 24-30, though, 294 yards, got Mike Evans back. They're going against the Panthers now. Carolina Panthers, in their last 3 losses, they've given up multiple touchdown passes. Gentlemen, do we think the Carolina Panthers are going to win this game?
No.
We do not.
Then Baker Mayfield going to throw for multiple touchdown passes, so look for him to have another week of being a top 10 fantasy QB.
No team is lower in pressure rate this year than the Carolina Panthers. They're 32nd in the NFL. Going to be a clean pocket for Baker to just pick them apart. He's my QB6 this week. That's the only concern is they get it big enough that.
By then, he'll be done did the damage already, though.
Anyway, we love Baker.
Patrick Mahomes also a top 10 play this week. Going back to week 5, the Raiders have allowed 18-plus points to a quarterback in 6 of their last 7 games. We talk about how consistent Baker is. The Raiders' defense is so consistent in the production they allow quarterbacks to have, Matthew.
Yeah, 6 of their last 7 games, they've given up at least 18 fantasy points to a quarterback, as you mentioned. The Raiders allow touchdown passes at the highest rate in the NFL over the last 4 weeks as well. And what's great is that, used to be coming into the season, Patrick Mahomes is on your love list? Yeah, well, no, duh. And then Patrick Mahomes was so brutal that you're like, I can't put him on the love list.
He's dropped in a couple weeks.
Yeah, but the last couple of weeks, he has suddenly started to become, that's Patrick Mahomes again as well. So I'm as a top 10 play this week. Good matchup. He's had multiple touchdown passes now in a couple of games. He's starting to look like Patrick Mahomes, and this Chiefs offense is starting to find itself in terms of the passing rhythm as well. Chance they get Isaiah Pacheco back this week as well.
Yeah, remember when he had like 6 touchdown passes, 9 picks,
Yeah.
and everybody's like, oh no. Well, now that ratio's changed now. Look, being quarterback 8 in fantasy, weeks 8 through 12, that's a nice little stretch right there. In that span, 12 touchdown passes, only 3 interceptions. So what happened earlier in the season, it does not matter anymore. Like now you get a matchup versus the Raiders. This is what the Chiefs do. Now they're starting to turn it up. At the end of the season, it's the same thing they did last year. We had worries about them in this offense. Well, they're still 10-1, and here we go.
Yep.
Two others receiving votes that just sneak into the top 12 here. C.J. Stroud, Matthew, at QB 11, he's got Jacksonville. Matthew Stafford, he's got the Saints at QB 12.
Yeah, 7 of the last 9 quarterbacks to face the Jags have scored at least 20 fantasy points. Stroud has only one 20-point game this season, and it came against Jacksonville in Week 4. Meanwhile, Stafford, not the best game against Philadelphia. He should find the sledding much easier on the road at the Saints, as New Orleans is a bottom 3 pass defense on the year. And 5 of the last 7 quarterbacks to face New Orleans have thrown for at least 275 yards. This is a big game for the Rams. They need to win this to keep their season alive and keep pace in that slow-rolling NFC West.
The hate list led by Jordan Love. Since Week 5, Lawrence, he's only finished as a top 12 quarterback 3 times after such a promising start to the season. And then obviously the injury that he came back from. And he also has another tough matchup this week against the Dolphins defense, which that secondary has a lot of talent.
Yeah, well, one thing for certain, 2 things for sure. Jordan Love going to throw you that interception. Matter of fact, Week 12 was the first game this season in which he did not throw an interception. And now we're talking about going to be against the Miami Dolphins defense that's top 5 in terms of allowing the fewest fantasy points per game to quarterbacks. Now, you talked earlier, Matthew, about who the Dolphins have played, and that is true. There's merit to that. They also held Stafford to 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. While Drake May is a rookie, he's played decently. He's been solid. 1 touchdown for him, a pick, and a lost fumble for Drake May against this Dolphins defense. So the game, this will be a good little game right here, but I expect the Dolphins defense to get after it too, regardless of what Jordan Love has done.
Only 3 quarterbacks this year have scored even 17 fantasy points against the Dolphins, to your point, Lawrence. And the line in this game is 47. Give me the under. I think the Packers are going to want to run the ball with Jacobs and Wilson. It's going to be cold. And I think Miami, same thing, that they're going to want to run the ball. I just don't see these teams, explosive. So primetime unders are a thing. I'm going to take the under on 47 here, but more importantly, I have Jordan Love outside my top 20. He's not running as much as we've seen him do previously in his career. I do think they want to be run heavy, and with a low total, I don't think he's going to be needed to throw a lot in this game either. It's going to be heavy run game. By the way, 15 or fewer fantasy points in 2 of the last 3 for Jordan Love as well.
Yeah. Right behind him at QB 22, Matthew, Kirk Cousins against that tough Chargers defense.
2 quarterbacks. Only 2 quarterbacks have thrown at least 250 yards against the Chargers. Even your guy, Lamar Jackson, threw for under 200 yards against the Bolts last week. They're top 12 in pressure rate over the last month. And so, nothing we've seen from Cousins lately gives you confidence. He doesn't run. He's outside my top 20 this week, in a week in which all quarterbacks are healthy. And as we've talked about earlier, the Falcons' offense just doesn't seem to be in the right gears.
Each of his last 2 games, he's had 0 touchdown passes and 1 pick. The 2 games before that, 3 touchdowns, no picks, 4 touchdowns, no picks. So it's like, which Kirk Cousins, or not even just Kirk Cousins, which Falcons offense are we going to get? That is the question. I don't know if we'll get a good one against this Chargers defense.
2 pieces of quarterback news before we take our last break here. Trevor Lawrence will get the bulk of first-team work in practice this week. Tommy DeVito is officially questionable for the game in Dallas on Thanksgiving with that right forearm injury.
It might be a Drew Lock Thanksgiving, baby.
The Giants' worst fear, a chance to win.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and Rotoworld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.